The Martinez and Devereux families had hated each other for longer than anyone in their town could remember. Their rivalry was stitched into the soil they both cultivated, each family owning vast vineyards that sprawled across opposite hillsides. The feud had begun generations ago over a disputed piece of land and festered through decades of bitterness, lawsuits, and public confrontations. Elena Martinez grew up surrounded by stern warnings and silent expectations. Her life was carefully curated, no mistakes, no risks. At 21, she was everything her family hoped for: poised, elegant, and obedient. But beneath her calm surface was a mind that longed for poetry, art, and something unknown, something more. Leo Devereux was fire to her water. Reckless but deeply thoughtful, he masked his quiet loneliness with charm and sarcasm. The Devereux name gave him power, but it came with a legacy soaked in pride and a reputation for vengeance. Like Elena, he was taught to hate. He was warned, shaped, and controlled by the ghost of the family war. But he, too, felt caged in expectations that weren't his own. Their paths crossed for the first time at an art gallery downtown, Neutral Ground. Elena stood alone, admiring a painting that reminded her of a dream she once had. Leo approached, drawn by the same piece, and they started talking. The conversation flowed effortlessly, full of subtle smiles and shared curiosity. There was a strange sense of recognition, something unspoken that neither of them could explain. It wasn't until someone addressed Leo by his full name that the spell cracked. Elena froze. Martinez and Devereux. The air thickened. Her face paled. He went quiet. Neither of them spoke the family names aloud, but they both knew. She left without saying goodbye. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She replayed every word, every glance, wondering how something that felt so real could be so forbidden. Leo felt the same ache. Something had ignited in that brief moment, and it burned too brightly to ignore. He wrote her a letter, short, honest, and full of restrained hope. He gave it to a friend whose loyalty leaned more toward art than family allegiance. Elena received the note the next morning. Her hands trembled as she read it, a request to meet again, in secret, somewhere safe. Her heart said yes before her mind had a chance to protest. She burned the letter and sent her reply the same way, with no words, just a pressed daisy wrapped in a ribbon. They didn't understand it yet, but something irreversible had begun. The feud, the families, the legacy, they all loomed in the background. But in that moment, none of it mattered. What mattered was the echo of something timeless waking up inside them. Neither of them knew the price they'd pay for it. They only knew they were willing. The first spark had been lit, and it would burn until it consumed them both. Their secret meetings began with caution but quickly grew into something deeper. Hidden from the world, they found comfort in the quiet moments they shared, far from the eyes that judged. Elena smiled in a way she never had before. With Leo, she was not the Martinez daughter, the heiress, or the pawn in her family's social strategies. She was just a girl in love. Leo, too, changed. He stopped pretending. For the first time, he was seen not as a Devereux, not as a symbol of pride or rebellion, but as himself. They shared stories of childhoods stained by loyalty to a hatred neither of them chose. Their conversations spilled into laughter, then silence, then long looks that said more than words could. They brought books to each other, scribbled notes in margins, and traded lines of poetry like secrets. Elena memorized the way Leo's voice softened when he said her name. Leo memorized the way she blinked when she tried not to cry. Days blurred. Time no longer felt linear, it was measured only by when they'd see each other again. But life outside their bubble didn't pause. Elena's parents, eager to solidify their influence, announced her engagement to Thomas Albrecht, a respected man, powerful, polished, and deeply loyal to the Martinez name. Elena didn't cry when she heard the news. She simply went still. Her mother spoke of duty and image, her father of strength and legacy. She nodded at all the right moments, but her soul shrank with every word. When Elena told Leo, he didn't speak at first. Then he smiled tightly, said he understood, said she should do what's best. But his hands clenched, and his heart broke. He didn't beg. He didn't ask her to choose. Instead, he kissed her slowly, like it was both a goodbye and a promise. Neither of them mentioned the word escape, but it lingered in the air like perfume. Even as their love deepened, the walls closed in. Elena's cousin began to suspect something was off. He'd seen her disappear at strange hours, return with dust on her dress and light in her eyes. One night, he followed her. He saw nothing, just trees and silence, but it was enough to make him wary. He didn't confront her, not yet. But he told her father that Elena was hiding something. Whispers began to circulate. I started to watch. Elena and Leo felt it. The tension, the pressure, the invisible noose tightening around them. But they clung to each other harder. They told themselves they could survive it. That love, real love, was enough. They didn't know how it would end, only that they couldn't stop. Each secret meeting became more urgent, more sacred. Every word mattered. Every touch was a lifeline. They were no longer just two people in love. They were two fugitives running from a fate written before they were born. And they were already running out of time. Elena's cousin didn't stay silent for long. Armed with suspicion and eager to earn favor, he confronted her father with vague details and insinuations. It was enough. Plans were set in motion without her knowledge. Her father, proud and possessive, decided the dishonor would end. He arranged for Elena's engagement to be expedited and instructed the family to watch her every move. Elena noticed the shift, the sudden curfews, the locked doors, the constant presence of someone nearby. She didn't panic. She adapted. But fear had arrived, and with it came doubt. Her father summoned her one evening and delivered an ultimatum: break off whatever she was hiding or be cut off from the family entirely. No inheritance, no status, no protection. That night, Elena made a choice she never wanted to make. She wrote Leo a letter, brief and cold. She told him it was over. That what they had was never serious. That he was a distraction, nothing more. She ended it with a final line: don't look for me again. She sent the letter through the same friend who once brought her his. Leo read it in silence. The words were sharp, deliberate. He didn't believe them. But they cut anyway. Days passed. Then weeks. No word. No messages. Just silence. He waited at their meeting place, heart pounding, each time hoping she'd come. She never did. He tried to convince himself she had chosen her family, her future, her safe life. But something in his gut twisted with every thought. It didn't make sense. She wouldn't just vanish. Not like that. Meanwhile, Elena lived a scripted life. She smiled when spoken to. She obeyed. Thomas, her fiancé, was suspicious but played the role well. He sensed her distance and took offense. At a dinner party, he toasted to their union, then made a cruel remark about loyalty. It was a calculated jab. Elena kept her composure, but she knew he knew. That night, Thomas confronted her in private. He didn't yell. He didn't hit. But his words were venom. He told her she was nothing without her name. That no one would choose her for love. That he could bury her secrets and ruin her silently. Elena realized she wasn't marrying safety. She was marrying control. Leo, drowning in confusion and anger, began unraveling. He drank to numb the ache. He avoided his family, ignored work, stopped writing. His friends stopped asking questions. One day, he saw Elena's cousin across the street. Their eyes met. Something passed between them, something dark, unspoken. That night, Leo received a letter. No signature. No explanation. Just 6 words: meet me. One last time. Elena. He stared at the paper, barely breathing. Hope returned, thin and fragile, but alive. He knew this wasn't over. He had one more chance to understand the truth, and he would take it, no matter what it cost. Leo arrived with nothing but the letter in his pocket and a heart full of questions. He saw her standing alone, pale and thinner than he remembered, but her eyes still held the fire he knew. She didn't waste time. Her voice trembled, but her words were clear. She told him everything. The letter she had sent weeks ago wasn't the truth. It was a lie, written under threat, forced by her father to protect Leo from the consequences of being exposed. She had been watched, cornered, and silenced. But even worse, Thomas had found out and retaliated. He had begun poisoning her slowly. Not to kill her quickly, but to ruin her piece by piece. When she confronted him, he made it clear this was his punishment for her betrayal. Her family turned a blind eye, unwilling to lose face. She was disposable, so long as the family's image remained intact. She fled as soon as she could, using the last ounce of strength she had to get that letter to Leo. Leo listened without speaking. His jaw clenched. His hands shook. But his eyes never left hers. He asked her why she didn't run sooner. She smiled faintly and said she wanted to, but she knew the cost. She didn't want him to be hunted. She didn't want blood on anyone's hands. She just wanted one last moment that was hers. She wanted to leave something behind that wasn't shaped by hate. He held her as she spoke, her voice growing weaker. She told him he made her feel free, even when the world kept her caged. She whispered that loving him was the only thing in her life she never regretted. Leo told her she was wrong. She wasn't leaving nothing behind. She was leaving him, and he would carry her memory forever. Her final breath was quiet. No drama. No screams. Just silence and the weight of a goodbye neither wanted. Leo sat there, frozen, until the sky darkened. He buried the pressed daisy she once sent him beneath the earth, where their moments lived. Then he walked away, not to forget her, but to make sure she was never erased. Years passed. Leo disappeared from the town, never seen again by those who once knew him. But under a pen name, a book appeared. A love story that gripped the world. Raw, aching, and real. It told of two souls defying the hatred they inherited, only to be crushed by the weight of it. No names were mentioned, but those who read it felt it was truth. At the edge of the town, near a forgotten path, a plaque was placed by someone anonymous. It read, "For those who dared to love, even when they weren't allowed to." The vineyard feud eventually faded. The land stayed, the vines grew, and somewhere in the silence, the story lived on, undeniable, tragic, and eternal.